Hi, it's Karen Hamilton from Sacred Seven Healing. I wanted to talk today about what is the cross and the symbology behind the cross. And I wanted to do a comparison with Da Vinci and also go into a little bit of an explanation about what is the spiritual component of being hung on the cross and the crucifixion itself. First of all, I wanted to explain the symbology behind the cross, and some people may know this, but some may not. The cross itself is a line that goes down and a line that goes across, which we know that is a general representation of a cross. But where the cross crosses is on the heart center, the heart chakra, which is actually your 0 point field. Now, the 0 point field is the place where all energy holds potential. So once energies, and if this is positive and below is negative, if this is positive and the other side is negative, it doesn't really matter on this end, but one will be positive, one will be negative. When that energy field comes together and it joins into the cross energy, then what happens is you form the 0 point field. Now that 0 point field, as I said, holds all potential. So if you look at also a binary grid or a binary number line, you're looking at 0 1 1 0 0 1 1 0 1 0 1 1 1. You're looking at kind of a continuation of zeros and ones. This would be your zero. And this zero, when all the energy is collected into the heart energy, it becomes the place where any energy can be created from this place of source. If you combine that energy with positive, which is positive mindset in that energy field, and you bring in the negative mindset from below, the negative energies from below, then what you're creating is an electrical charge. That charge then goes into the heart, and as I've mentioned before, forms a toroidal field around the body. You also have a toroidal field that goes in through the crown and down through the spinal column and up and around. So you technically have a ring of energy going around you this way, a ring of energy that's going inward and outward and around, and it actually forms a net energy that comes in and around like this, up and around like this. And when you go through what I call being hung on the cross, that is a spiritual representation that you are going through what I would call the place of Doth, which is the eighth Sephiric place. It's called the hidden Sephira. It's another representation of death in a way. It's going through a process of recognizing that everything that you are needs to be looked at from a very deep level. And you go into the 0 point field with your consciousness. You look into your heart energy, which then connects you into a doorway, which opens up the higher mind aspect connected to the heart, and then you can go deeper within, which then starts to show all the fractals of every single potential of what you may have been or are. And then you start having to work through a process. So it's almost like going into the void of the uncertain unknown. You go into this void space, and what happens is you basically are in there for a period of time. It can be days, months, could be a year that you're in this space where you almost feel as if you are dying because you're having to look at all these different reflections of yourself, good and bad, because there's negative and positive in everything that we are. And when you go through that energy space, it can, if you are able to pull yourself through the negative and start looking in it in a positive way, seeing even the dark reflections and fragments of who you are, realizing that all aspects of self are connected to God and all connected to the infinite source of light. And all that is placed within the heart. All of that is connected into that 0 point field, because that's the place of all potential. That's the beginning of all potential, is going into that place. So when you're hanging on the cross, you're really looking at what is happening on a very deep level, and going into that place. And that's when you are, asking yourself, similar to what Ishwas said in the Bible was, why have you forsaken me? What have I done to cause you to walk away from me? And why is this happening to me? That's what happens when people go through a trauma and then they're trying to figure out why all these things have happened to them and occurred, and different things that have connected into that place within their heart, and why they've been fragmented. It could be a mental fragmentation, emotional fragmentation, could be a combination of both those things. And so it's a way of collecting oneself in all aspects and bringing it back home. You're coming back home. And that's connecting to God. That's asking for assistance. That's asking for your angels to guide you through the process, through your pain and suffering, which it is. It's being in that doth, or that 8 separate state of consciousness, is one of the most painful places you can be, because everything that you've ever done or said, it's like a death life review. It's literally like you're alive, but you are going through your entire life review in the living form. And you're having to look at all the choices you made and everything that you've done. And the interesting thing is, when you go into this state of consciousness, you do actually die. You do actually have a death in a sense, spiritually, where you do disconnect from your physical self, and then you're able to, through gaining wisdom, through sheer will and wanting to be a better person, and again, I say that all the time, it's through love that you are able to actually be reborn, through recognizing that there is more to your existence, that there is a divine consciousness there that's assisting you, and that you can connect to that divine consciousness. And when you go through this process, there are many beings of light that are there to assist you through the process. And you can call them, some people go into this master program. I don't really buy into all of that, but there are different beings. Sometimes you don't even really know who they are, helping you go through that process to show you reflections of yourself and force you to have to work through those processes in order to move up into another understanding of consciousness. So it's really going through dimensions. It's going through layers of consciousness, and maybe these layers or these dimensional understandings are really consciousness layers. So you have your own worlds within worlds. You are growing exponentially and moving out. And what I always say is that with dimensions, the way I would describe it is, you have like a layer cake. You have layer, plasmic field, layer, plasmic field, layer, plasmic field. And as you work through the dimensions and you learn all you need to learn in each step and each place, you find out more about your ability and your power and this is when you're in this higher consciousness, connecting to that 8th gateway, which is kind of like the exit. Some people actually die, and some people can actually go through it as a living person and end up reborn. That is really what being born again is. And then after you go through this process of learning and expanding your consciousness, recognizing your gifts and your powers, even on a spiritual level, realizing that everything is connected to the heart and to love. There is no greater energy that exists in the universe than love. And once you realize the empowerment of that notion and that knowledge, you further grow. And then you have more experiences dimensionally, interdimensionally, extra dimensionally, that you're able to access and work through. And it's all through the mind, through the higher consciousness realms. You start to connect to other portals that exist around the body that allow you as a vehicle to exit in and out, to be able to come in and out of consciousness and come back in. Now, the other part of this I wanted to talk about was Da Vinci, and I wanted to express that he had drawn a circle, and inside the circle he drew a person with the arms outstretched like this. That is the symbol of the upright man. That is the symbol of the head connected to divine creation. That is the symbol of the time-space continuum. It is the beginning of the explanation of the transducer crystal and how we can operate through time and space, even in our own physical vehicle. And the other part of the Da Vinci symbol is that it's the symbol of peace. It is the actual proper symbol of seeing the person standing with its arms outstretched, upright, receiving divine guidance from the highest and most loving light. Whereas today they've, taken this symbol that was so powerful and they changed it and turned it upside down. So now the divine symbol goes downwards, and that is actually the symbol of war. So these people that wear the peace sign on their shirt are actually, it's incorrect. It was supposed to be the other way. So, again, these are Luciferian societies. They control a lot of things. They believe that they want to take an idea that is a positive one, and they always turn it the other way. So what seems like you're thinking it's positive, they know it's negative. So it's just one more symbol that they've transformed into something very sinister, actually, that should have been very beneficial for mankind and beautiful. Anyway, that's just one thing I wanted to talk about with Da Vinci. But Da Vinci's beginning of the circle with the man upright standing, as I said, is the beginning of the understanding of the transducer crystal, which actually sits on the front of the human body. And that is, it's like a portal that exists on our physical vehicle that allows us, through heart connection, to exit in and out into the greater cosmos and still be connected to either your physical form, or you can go and shrink down into a micro size pinpoint if you want. You have the ability to move through time and space in many different forms, and you can move yourself into other planetary systems. You're able to shamanically move your physical vehicle and consciousness to another location. So it's like a form of being able to bilocate. And then when you go through this process, as well as I've mentioned in my previous video, connected to the Christ consciousness, going through the transfiguration, then going on to the cross and understanding all the representations of self and all the different aspects of your power and your personal ability of what you're able to do. You realize that you can actually duplicate yourself through energy. You can become so multidimensional that you can coexist in multi-dimensions simultaneously. Because if you understand energy, it can exist in one place, and there is a thread of energy connected to that original source, and you can extend that thread of energy out. And that's what they explain as being the string theory. And I can express to you from personal experience that in fact this is a reality, that you can be in multiple places simultaneously. And I have had people that have witnessed me showing up somewhere where I am physically not aware that I'm there. And in fact, they are saying I did show up and I was existing in that other place at the same time that I'm more fully physically here. So I had figured out how to move myself through time and space through all these connections and energy that I realized existed and that we can access and utilize for the greater good of humanity. And so when I do work and work through higher consciousness or moving my body through time and space, everything I do, and that's another thing, is you have to move to a high enough elevation of understanding of love, that it is not about you. It's you are now serving the greater good for all universal energy. It is not about you and what you want. It's about what is best from an understanding of love and wisdom for the greater collective of humanity. And that's really what I believe angelic energy is that understanding of how to do these different things. And then the other part of this is now going into the crucifixion, understanding that there are many that will doubt, not believe, throw arrows at you, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, they question everything about you. But this is also part of the transformation, is realizing that no matter what people say, as long as you stay heart-centered and be true to yourself and know thyself, you can overcome any obstacle. And so that is also part of the journey of development of growing these abilities. It's not just that you're given these abilities and there you go, have a good time. It's you actually have to learn how to use them appropriately, and you are guided through a process of how to use the abilities. And again, as I said, it's through divine guidance, through your heart connections, and trying in every dimension that you're working in that you are so connected to your heart energy that everything you do, even in other dimensions, is still connected to that original field of love, of creation, and love of all that is. And the judgment of others is not about being harsh and judgmental. It's about looking at what the divine blueprint is and what would be best for the greater good of all of humanity. It's never about you. It's about everyone else. And so you make your sacrifice to God is becoming the heavenly host. You become connected to the heavenly host. And then you become a doorway which allows for energies to come into you that utilize you as a vehicle so that you can continue your process of doing good works in whatever system that you are currently in, whether it be Earth or some other planetary system or other dimensions. And so again, it's about love, it's about compassion, because they will not let those that have not connected into the heart and know thyself enough that can be trusted in a sense to operate outside of this solar system even. Because if you do, you can affect what happens in other worlds by choices that you make. So everything you do must be really connecting mind, higher consciousness, divine energy into heart energy, into that 0 point field, which is the creation of all things. And then you can become a co-creator of all that is. But you must go through the process. the other part of it is that once you go through the crucifixion, again, you go through that rebirth. And when you go through the rebirth, it's literally your body can regenerate itself to its ultimate healthy position, upright, and that you can then, because you've been reborn, you now hold, and I think that they use the term, you become the bride of I don't know if you become Jesus's bride or God's bride or however you become it. That just means that you are marrying the divine energies that exist in the universe, that you are connected through the 12 tribes, which are the 12 different energy fields that run around the brain. You're also connected because there's other energy fields and nodal points all over the body, that you literally become the living light. You become a light. And that light energy is infinite. It can move through time and space. It is source energy. You become the full receiver of the, and now you're wearing the garments of the bride. You are now the bride of Christ. You are wearing the garments of Christ. The garment is the protective energy fields that you receive when you go through this full resurrection. And so the resurrection is the rebirth. It is you being able to literally move through time and space. So if you decide you don't want to exist somewhere, you just like check out and go, and then you can come back. Now, it doesn't mean that my physical vehicle disappears, although I can say that I did experience a process through all of this where I saw my physical vehicle flowing into orbs and actually dissipating, and I was guided to pull my energy field back in. I was able to put it back, and I know it sounds totally hard to believe, but we are just made of light. That's all we are. And so I was able to reprogram and put the light back in, tap it back into place, and then I'm solid again. So, you know, if we are nothing but energy, and if we were nothing but holographic, you know, which is what scientists are trying to understand, I can say that in fact this is true because I've physically experienced the entire process from beginning through to where I'm at today. And so, you know, it is a real thing. And I do believe that in the Bible, people think that it's something that only happened to the Son of God, but we are all the sons and daughters of God, of creation. So it's for all of us to experience if we choose to, but it is a process, and you have to want to do it through will, compassion to others, wanting joy in your life, and love. And when you gain all those frequencies together, you form what they call the Trinity, which is the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, or the ghost, the Holy Ghost. I mean, there's different ways to express it, but you actually become the Trinity, where you hold two strands of now encoded DNA that is lit up inside your body, encoding your body into the vehicle of light. And then when you do that, you receive the third strand, which is the etheric strand of DNA that goes through the crown chakra, and it runs directly through, and it meets at the heart center, spark right behind the heart, and it runs right through, and it anchors down into earth. And inside earth is a egg that sits in the very center core. So what I was showing is it's like a jawbreaker. Earth has all these layers, but in the very center, and I know they've never drilled down to the center, so they say that it's all molten. Well, it is. You go through an iron core, there's fire, there's brimstone, there is all these layers, but in the very center of Earth is a crystal egg. It is a crystal egg. And what happens is you then can anchor into that egg, and now you're receiving and giving of energy and life to the planet. And all of us can anchor into that egg. All of us can be givers, but you have to be connected into the heart. Does not mean you have to be perfect. Does not mean that you're not going to make mistakes. Doesn't mean that you don't sometimes get angry. It doesn't mean that you are always perfect, because it's a daily work. You don't just become the example of perfection. You must work at it every day for the rest of the physical existence that you choose to have here on this earth plane. Every single minute of every single day, questioning the things you say. And when you speaking with love through the heart to other people, saying, I love you, holding them, giving them a hug. Although now with this COVID thing, we're not allowed to hug, but that'll change eventually. And I don't even fully understand that whole COVID thing. There's still something spiritually connected to that energy that I'm still trying to connect to. But anyway, so when you become connected, the other part of this is you start to understand past, present, and future coexist simultaneously. And then you learn that you can manifest every experience you're having, that you actually are creating the experience you're experiencing. And so what I can say to people that maybe haven't gone through the full reconnection and everything else that has happened, just remember that every thought you have is a creation, because it's energy. And every bit of energy is part of the greater collective of the living light. So think carefully about the words you use, the thoughts you have, whether it be about your children or somebody you're frustrated with. Be kind. Be thoughtful. Be forgiving. Be loving. Be compassionate. Be joyful. Picture the things that you want to receive, and don't focus on the negatives. And when the world's in chaos, this is just the Kali Yuga, or it's the destruction for the recreation and the rebirth. So as each of us is going through our own pole shift, through being on the cross, going through the experience, worrying about, am I going to lose everything? Is this going to happen to me? This is part of us having a life review. We are being given a gift to see what it is that we need and what we don't. And asking ourselves, were we really happy before? Because sometimes people won't change their lives until everything is taken away from them. You don't have to get to that point. You can choose powerfully today to ask yourself, was I even happy? I'm hanging on to things that, did I really need all these things? And I just want to say it's okay to like beautiful things. It's okay to have nice things and have a nice home. But the question becomes, if you're only doing it to fill the emptiness within your heart, then you are not gaining energy in a positive way. You only choose that which you love, connect to that which you love, and you can pull it in. It's okay to have material things, because this is a material physical realm. But think about why you're creating the energy to have that thing. And all things are possible. It's just a matter of recognizing that's the truth. And when you know that that's the truth of love and how energy works and how you can manifest your own power and create everything in the 0 point field of all potential, through this place in your heart, and through connecting to higher consciousness, through connecting to the 12 tribes, redeeming yourself through asking for forgiveness, asking people that you've hurt for forgiveness, changing yourself. And the moment you recognize that you are not what you want to be is the moment you've already changed. You've already shifted through into another layer of consciousness. Every minute of every day we are shifting continuously, living and dying, because every breath we take in is life, every breath we exit out is death. And every thought we have as we shift higher and change our minds, one minute, oh, my life's all going to fall apart, and the next minute, you know what, we're going to be okay. You've shifted from this timeline into this one. Choose the timeline, choose the dimensional reality, choose where you wish to be, where you want to be at this given moment in time. And when you realize that you're kind of shifting in the wrong direction, quickly pull yourself back in. Stay positive. Keep a higher thought form about every experience, because sometimes we're reflected things that are very challenging, but that is part of being on the cross. That is part of our crucifixion, to be able to find our way back to the living light, to source, to God. That is how we reconnect into our higher self and realize the power and potential of everything we've always been. It's gaining our power back. It's recognizing our abilities. It's knowing that we are interdimensional. We are transdimensional. We can move through time and space, and we do it every night while we sleep without even realizing it. When you're awake, you realize, and that's part of the awakening, that you are in control of those experiences. That's what the Great Awakening is. So if you want to have a positive, loving, happy experience, then choose that. And then you place your foot forward in a solid direction in this physical realm towards what you've now manifested. So let's say you decide you want to open a business. Maybe the timing isn't perfect for that, but you can start the planning. You can start putting your foot forward and thinking about how you might be getting that, and then asking the divine for assistance. Please help open doors for me. Connect me to the people I need to connect in, and then pull that energy back into your heart. And you've now created energy fields where there's a singularity connection between you and some other energy to create that which you want to experience. That's what manifestation is. Anyway, have a wonderful day, and I love you. And whether you see this in the morning, afternoon, evening, again, as I've always said, this was meant for you. That's why you're seeing it for today, because that's how energy works. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.